initiated.
All right. And we are officially live.
We
How's it
are.
going, everyone? Yeah, yeah. So, first off, real quick, awesome. Thank you for joining us and being the first to hang out with us on the Apollo Twitch stream. We're really excited. This is pretty awesome. And yeah, so we're so glad that you joined us. Second, if you notice, yeah, thank you. If you notice any audio issues, if anything is too loud or too quiet, please let us know. We're getting all this set up. We just figured it would be good. Hey, Rob Sutter. Hey, guys. We figured it would be good to just get this out a little ahead of time since everybody's trapped at home anyway, and we figured we'd hang out. All right. So yeah, I guess quick, we'll introduce ourselves. Then we'll introduce kind of what this show is and what else to expect out of Apollo, and then yeah, we'll get right into it. So I'll go first. I'm Kurt Kemple. I am a dev advocate at Apollo, and I've been getting into streaming a lot lately. And so I'm excited to be here on Twitch on the Apollo channel. We have lots of fun plans about what we're going to do in the future. But yeah, thank you for joining. Oh, and I'm Kurt Kemple on Twitter if anybody wants to go find me there.
Cool. And my name's Trevor Blades. I'm an engineer on the developer experience team at Apollo. So I mainly work on building docs and other cool websites that help people learn how to use our tools. And I'm Trevor Blades on Twitter. And for the record, you can also find both of our whoever the presenter is for any of these streams. You can find out where to follow them by just scrolling down to the presenters panel below the stream. So some future reference for you. And chat,
Oh
let me
yeah.
know if mic levels are sounding okay.
Woohoo! So, well, I mean, we haven't gotten any huge red flags. No one's saying that it doesn't sound okay. So I'm going to roll with it does. And we're going to keep pushing on.
Cool.
So, hey, I'm on himself. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, Mike's good. Okay. Trevor's is better. Oh, man. Hang on. We can't
Okay.
have that. Let me fix that. All right. So I've turned mine up a little bit. Let me know. And
Sounds
let
good
me
to
know if
me.
that helps. Okay,
I hate
cool.
I'd hate to I hate that better is the word used,
Yes.
considering I'm using my my default computer mic, and Kurt's got like the real streamer
I
mic
got
going on.
I do. I have a fancy mic, but I mean volume,
I'm glad
it
you
doesn't
clarified
matter.
this higher, Rob.
It doesn't matter the quality, right? It's the volume. It's
Yeah,
not the quality of the mic, it's the volume.
that's right.
All right.
Exactly.
So cool. All right. Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So this show is Orbit. And what Orbit is us just kind of looking at what's going on in the GraphQL. Trevor's goes to 11.
Love to hear it.
Nice. All right, yeah. So yeah, we're just here to see what's going on in GraphQL this week and kind of see if we notice anything interesting. So if you have seen something cool in the last week too, drop a link in the chat because we would love to check it out. So yeah, so that's what this show is. This is Orbit. It'll happen every Monday at 9 a.m. PST. And yeah, you get to start your week off with some cool information about what's going on. I think it's a nice way to start the Mondays. You know.
Hmm.
We also have two other shows that we'll be doing. For lack of a better term, show I think is a good way to phrase it. And the first one is Launchpad, and in that, yeah, every Monday. Yeah, I think so. Every Monday. We'll see. I mean, to start, I'd say yes. If there's like literally nothing that we could find very interesting, which seems unlikely, then yeah, we probably wouldn't do one. But yeah, we're gonna try. So yeah,
As long as the GraphQL world continues pushing forward, we
yeah,
will be reporting on it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, your news here first with Trevor and Kurt. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, and then so like I was saying, the next one is going to be Launchpad, and Launchpad is building apps, right? So yeah, we want to be able to take you through a process of building something from start to finish and see what we learn along the way. And we'll use different types of architectures and stacks and frameworks and tools each time. So that's really cool. And then lastly, we have mission briefing. And mission briefing is kind of where you're going to go to get all the one off things that are really cool, but like, you know, don't really fit like an official format. So maybe we'll have guests come on and show us how to do cool stuff. People from the Apollo core team coming on and showing us maybe some features or things going on in OSS or in the Apollo ecosystem. And yeah, so we think it'll be really fun. Also, if you would like to do that, please reach out to me on Twitter. So if you're using Apollo in a really cool way and you want to come on mission briefing and share it with the Twitch community and the Apollo community, then yeah, please let us know. All right, awesome. Yeah, and I'll set up like an official way to do that. But for now, just DM me. DMs are open. Cool. Yeah. So that's about the wrap up that I got. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that all sounds good. Yeah, if any of those sound interesting to you guys, drop a follow in Twitch, um, and you'll be able to catch future episodes.
Oh yeah, all the madness. It'll be good. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, cool. So, all right, I guess without further ado, let's get into our list. Yeah. Oh, cool. So we already got a link. We will save that, and what I'll do is try and go through these at the end and take a look at this, and we'll go through and like add them to the list. Thank you, Aman. Thank you for sharing. All right. So, all right, let's jump over and grab our first link. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is actually coming out of Apollo. Da-da-da. And that is Apollo Client. The 3.0 beta has been released for a decent amount of time now. But they want to make sure that it's epic and awesome and works well and there's no issues. So definitely looking for more people to beta test. So if you want to beta test Apollo Client 3.0, I think it would be great. I mean, it's definitely, I've been using it and found it very stable. I haven't, really pushed the boundaries of it, but I haven't hit any issues. And the caching API is much different, and I really enjoy using it. It's a much different experience from 2, and yeah, I think it's really cool. Have you messed with it at all yet, Trevor?
Yeah, I've been using it pretty much exclusively since it went into beta. I was, I guess, overly um, excited to
Zealous.
to get my hands on it. So I think that was back in October, I want to say. It's toward the end of last year anyway. So I've been using it since then, and yeah, there's little things that have changed along the way, but the core experience is the same. Like it hasn't changed that much. Like for your basic like data fetching app, um, I would definitely recommend Apollo Client 3 beta as much as I would Apollo Client 2.6. And for the record, too, you can also, because Apollo Client, or because the beta is actually the only version published at the namespace at Apollo/client npm package, you can just
Oh,
run npm install Apollo at Apollo/client, and you'll get the beta. Um, no, it'll save you 5 keystrokes, but
nice.
but yeah, I've been using it pretty extensively, and I've actually updated my. I have like a Apollo Gatsby plugin that I've updated to the latest version of that plugin. Also supports Apollo Client 3 beta. I've basically been using it as if it's my ride or die recently.
I'm hooked. That's how I was with two. When
Yeah,
two came out too, I was
and it
on that train early.
yeah, it's really good. Like of all of the different like changes to the API and stuff, one of the things that really stands out to me that increases the ease of use of Apollo Client 3 is that it has everything bundled in it. So to get up and running, you really just need to install Apollo at Apollo/client. Before you had to install, an Apollo client package, or like, either Apollo client or Boost,
Yeah,
and import your Apollo client things from there. You'd have to install your Apollo links as separate packages and
yeah,
import
yeah.
configure them, and even like the GraphQL tag, the tagged template literal, um, that was also served as a separate package in the past.
Yep.
And as you can see on the screen now, you just install the one package and it exports all of the pieces that you need to set up Apollo in your project. So that's
It's a
a
lot
really
better.
nice ergonomic change.
Yeah, that's a lot better. That's nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then the other part that I haven't had a chance to play around with yet, but I'm really really excited to, is the a new option for handling local state, which is
oh
the
yeah, that's right.
make variable API, or the make var API. I don't know if we have
Yeah, I don't know if that's
that
here yet.
extensive documentation on it yet, but it's really really cool. It's just like a very um, it's a an alternative way to handle local state in your apps that uh, contains very very little extra boilerplate. I don't think that this article is updated for it yet,
Yeah,
but
no.
our teammate Khalil has I think he wrote a blog post
He
that discusses this topic. So if
yeah,
I
he
can
did.
pull it up, I'll link it in the chat real quick. One
Yeah,
sec.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah, because that's actually really cool. I like the way that you work with the local cache. I like the new caching API is a bit different. I mean, as far as what type of cache you're going to use, that hasn't changed. It's more interacting with cache data, which is significantly different. Oh, I don't think this has been updated yet. This still has read query and read fragment. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you're just
it's a
gonna have to
lot.
take our word for it.
Yeah, it's cool. Actually, we're going to talk about somebody posted a Medium article. It's actually what we're going to talk about next, which is their first impressions on Apollo Client 3.0, and I think it goes over this stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, it
Yeah,
should be
I
covered.
even if it's not, then it'll be definitely a subject for a future stream, and we'll go more in depth about the like the ins and outs of using that API and what makes
Yeah,
it different from current local state solutions with Apollo.
Absolutely. And so the first episode of Launchpad, where we're kicking off a brand new project and a brand new show, is this Thursday. And I guarantee that's going to end up in one of those episodes. And when it does, I'll clip it out as a highlight and just that part specifically, and then make it easy to find for everybody. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right, cool. So yeah, I guess we're gonna move on. But real quick, I do want to just reiterate that we would love for you to use this. So if you're using Apollo client and you have a project that looks like a good candidate to drop 3.0 in and test it, even if it's just to like surface some bugs, we'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Cool, yo. Let's move on. It's weird that the browser keeps like flashing. All right. So here, just continuing on Apollo Client 3.0, somebody had some first impressions. So I figured we could kind of breeze through this real quick and see what they had to say. So under like what's new, he definitely talks about the Apollo cache, how it was normalized. However, there were some times where you had to hack around to make things work, which I've experienced that. Like things with like pagination and sorting and stuff could be a little weird. But the ones that are really interested to me, including but not limited to, look at this, is invalidation, garbage collection, and cache eviction, which is really neat. So you can set like lifespans, basically TTLs for for your cache entries. Yeah, so let's take a look at this. So type and field policies API. This is cool. So you can customize how individual fields in Apollo Client Cache are read and written. To do so, you define a field policy object for a given field on a type. You nest a field policy object within whatever type policy object corresponds to the type that contains the field. So let's look at the code. So type policies. So on the type query fields, we would query for card. And
could you bump your font size up just
yeah, is it a little small?
a notch?
Boom.
There you
How's
go.
that?
Perfect.
Is that better? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got query fields. I'm noticing now that you can't see my mouse either, so I'll highlight things so that you can kind of see where I'm talking about. All right, and I think Trevor's video may have froze.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're back. No, you're back.
Okay.
There we go.
Back for now.
Yeah, but you were froze for a second there. I was like, oh no, is he sleeping? Am I boring him that much already?
This is all pre-recorded. I'm actually sleeping in real
life. Cool. So like what we can do here with type policies or field policies is, because we have a field card, we can in the cache, we could take the existing data, and then whenever something happens to it, we can run this function, boom. And then this is how we're going to specify a type policy, like trying to figure out the type, as opposed to previously where you had to, I don't even remember, it was like a long verbose way of like, you did a function, right? It was just like one generic function, and then you had to figure out the type of the object based on its structure. Yeah, it sounds about right. But here, this is very cool because it makes it a little bit easier to do. And then if we look at this merge function, this is what I'm really excited about. So here on cards, when that's a collection. So when more content comes in, more cards come into the cache, it's so easy to just merge them now. You have your existing, your incoming, and your args. And so for things like pagination, you could actually write one merge function if it's just standard pagination and apply it to all the different places where you have collections, and then that should just work. Cool. Which is interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool. The read function. So if you define a read function for a field, cache calls that function whenever your client queries for the field. Oh, right. So it's like basically it's a function that sits between your cache and you when you access it, so you can do things like transformations on it. Yeah, right. So we could format strings, dates, etc. You can implement virtual fields. So if you're like testing, or like say you're waiting for fields to become available, um, you can just set these. Oh no, Trevor, you froze again, and now you're back
Uh-oh.
again. Man, this
Hmm.
is trippy. All
That's all right.
right,
We're working
interesting.
out the kinks here. As all,
Yeah, we're
I
working out
mean,
the kinks.
hopefully my audio isn't also cutting out because I would argue
It
that that
sounds
is more important.
Yeah, it sounds clear. If you're watching and Trevor's audio is bad, let us know.
Hmm.
It looks good. Stream quality is good. I think it might just be Zoom. Probably a lot of people using Zoom right now.
That's all right.
You know?
We will
Yeah.
press.
Yeah, yeah, we shall press on. Okay. Yes. Okay. So merge function we just covered. But read, like I was saying, it would be really good for mocking data. So we don't
Mhm.
have the back end set up for it, right? There's no API. So instead of like adding the mock to the server, you can now just like mock from the client. You could just, if it's not
Cool.
implemented yet. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Okay. Yeah, this is the other thing. So this is a bit interesting. And this got really abstracted. This is what I was talking about with the possible types, where you would have to do a function and then check based on um, like what was in the object, whether it was like, because it could be a Jedi or a droid, but maybe there's a property that tells them apart, right? Like if they're using an interface or something. But in order to figure out what type it is for the cache, you would have to implement this function, and then you would have to check the structure. And now you can just say, oh, these are the possible types it could be. And then under the hood, Apollo figures that out for you.
Neat.
So now you don't have to. And that's a lot of code, like a lot of annoying code that you just have to repeat over and over and over again.
Hmm.
I was
And
happy with
speaking
that.
of annoying code, I think the next section in this blog is talking about
Yes.
cache eviction or like
Yes.
programmatically removing data from the cache. And this used to be
Yeah.
something before Apollo
Oh,
Client 3 that was very verbose, and not, we had to basically write null data to the cache, or write a subset of data to your Apollo cache. So what you're looking at is the uh, the state of cache eviction or cache modification um, in
two.
Apollo Client 2.6.
Yeah.
So what we do is we read
Oh,
the existing
sorry.
state of the categories from the cache, and then and if that if there are no categories, then we default to categories being undefined, I guess, in this example, and then um, yeah, and then we just call a write query to the cache and return a subset of the categories filtered by some predicate.
Yeah, which is a lot. Needless to say, that's a lot of effort to
What we
update
really
the
want to say
cache.
in this, yeah, exactly. What we're really trying to get at in this example is we want to eliminate a particular category from the cache that has an ID that we know. Um,
So if it's here,
so
we don't want it. Yeah.
yeah, so and you can see in the signature of this function called remove category, we have an ID passed in as a string. So that should be all the information we need to perform this kind of operation. So now when you scroll down, we'll see what this cache modification looks like in Apollo Client 3. So for the most part, the top few lines of the function are the same. It's a function called remove category that takes an ID, which is a string, except now our update function takes the cache and it modifies the root query um, to I guess again filter out categories that or filter out categories that have the ID that we passed in. And then finally, on the last line of this update function, we call cache evict with the cache key. So it's the type name colon the identifier, and
Yeah,
That's
which is like
the
a pretty standard key, key value lookup practice. So should be easy to reason about as well. And also, thanks for the follow. I think that was Ron for X. So thank you.
thanks, Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty awesome. And this is so cool because you could use this anywhere for anything. Like, if I don't know, there's like a bunch of use cases. So if somebody like was storing information and then, locally, but you wanted a way for them to be able to clear it out, right? Like this is very easy to just call, as long as you know the structure of your key. It'd be a lot easier. Yeah, and cache.modify. This is nice. This is a bit more pleasing of an experience then. So the thing I want to talk about here, because this looks almost the same, because yes, we're still filtering, but we're just calling modify on the root query. That is going to have a property called categories. What we had to do first to modify this in 2 was we had to use a query to pull the data out, do some transformations, and then write that back in basically with like a mutation or so if we come back up, we're gonna write the query, right? So we have to so it's still a query, but like we have to still work within the realm of GraphQL, which sometimes the types don't line up exactly, so you're like writing these one-off queries to like do something to access something in the cache. And it's just very verbose and a lot of extra typing, a lot of extra keystrokes to accomplish the same thing.
It feels feels a bit redundant as well. Is something that I've heard from people in the past. Like every time you want to update the cache, you have to read from it and then write to it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of repetition. Like we're reading and writing from the same query, stuff like that. These are some things that I've heard from the community on occasion. So this offers a different API.
Yeah, it's a much different API. It's really nice. I like it. And I'm a real big fan of cache.evict because that's just so easy to implement anywhere for anything. And opens up a lot of UX doors that would otherwise be a little bit more difficult or at least verbose to create. Cool. So that's most of the caching stuff. So, okay, cache evict to delete. Oh my goodness, a field. Sorry about that. I don't even know where that came from. Yeah. Oh, I know where that came from. I'll deal with that later. Sorry about that. Yeah. Let's see. Cache identify. Cache identify. So this is if you're trying to like find a key for a reference, you can basically pass in the object and then it would return to you the cache key. That is cool. I love that. God, I love that. It's so much easier than like making functions to build cache keys. Like who has done that? Can we get a show of hands? Like I've had to do that a gazillion times, right? Yeah. Who hasn't? I love that. Absolutely love that. And it's the little things. It's kind of those attention to details that I love so much. All right. So conclusion, Apollo Client 3.0 is looking great. It's always been one of its strongest features, but I would also say one of the features people struggle with the most, probably because it is the strongest. And so this is simplifying that a lot without changing a lot of the surface API that lets you get up and going with Apollo Client very quickly. You can still call .query and .mutation, the instantiation of the client itself, aside from now only having everything you needed in one package, it's still the same configuration. You're still using links, you're still picking your cache. So it's nice. I think it'll give the changes that are needed with as little intrusion into your workflow as possible. So it's nice. All in all, nice. All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat just for if anybody wants to read this article for themselves. There's a lot more information that we glossed over. I would highly suggest giving this article a read if you're interested in picking up Apollo Client 3 and this might answer some of the questions that you have.
Yeah, I will also start dropping the links in the chat as soon as I go to them so that everybody else can go to them if they would like. So here what we have is my Twitter We have a COVID 19 GraphQL API. So it's built on top of a REST API that was created by this lovely person. And now it's using Apollo GraphQL REST data source to just convert that to GraphQL API. But if you are interested in creating tools to help kind of combat COVID-19, you are free to use this API, and there's already a lot of like apps and things being built on top of these APIs to help. So I just wanted to highlight this because I think that's really cool, and oftentimes technology brings a lot of problems, but I love seeing it being used for things like this.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, it's really really cool. I just want to give a plug out there for the fact that this is a free public API.
Yes.
We're really really lucky to just have people that are um,
Yeah.
willing to produce awesome services like this and offer it up for free. So yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, and it's awesome. It's amazing. And so I'm going to blow this up a little. I think it's a little small, but essentially you can get daily reports. You can pick out particular cases. And so, yeah, it's definitely worth looking into, if nothing else, or at least just maybe just giving it a like, on Twitter, because it's pretty awesome that they took the time to put this together.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah. So this I thought was pretty interesting. I read through this the other day and I really liked it. So I'm just going to share it because it was an article that I read that I quite enjoyed, because I haven't used Apollo server quite a while. So this was like a nice kind of just like quick intro into like, I mean, it was probably a little more beginner than what I was actually looking for. But if you're actually getting, just getting started in GraphQL, or relatively new to building GraphQL servers, this article is absolutely amazing. It gives you like the quick background, very succinct, enough just to get there. And then, yeah, just like ties in the pieces very well. But by the time you're done, you have like a running server. So it's pretty fun. I always love tutorials like that are just very quick, give me all the information I need to get like something built at the end, so I feel successful. I have created, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So I mean, it just has like a getting started section, and then if we scroll down, it will cover uh, schema types, right? It's gonna tell you what they are and essentially how they're used, what they look like, as far as like defining it in code. So I love that he just like, here's what it is, and then here's how you type that out. And instead of just showing a type like in a code block, it's like actually pulling in the code and like, here's how you write out a type with GQL. So I thought that was pretty fun. Um, yeah, it's nice. This is probably a little small to see. Blow this up again. There we go. I'm just going to leave it here. I think I made it too small. But yeah, so if you get a chance, you should definitely come check this out.
That's awesome. It's really good to have kind of a backlog of good tutorials, even if it's not for you. I'm sure we've all got friends who are curious about learning how to code, or if they know how to
Yes.
code but they haven't touched GraphQL yet. And if you're not sure kind of what resources to send them, I mean, I would always recommend checking out the Apollo docs.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
having
it's a
having
great getting
auxiliary
started place.
options like this is great content, and a lot of these kind of like short, succinct things can be great for people getting started. And CSS tricks is one of my favorite kind of. It's been a long standing staple in the web development
Yes.
community, which is amazing. That a site that called csstricks.com is making maybe the one of the best getting started with Apollo server
Yeah, they
tutorials.
put a exactly. They only accept content that has like a lot of care put into it, and that's why I'm sharing it actually, is because it's from CSS Tricks, and it's one of the sites that I trust to. If I go to a link there, I'm guaranteed that it's going to be quality content. It might not be the exact answer I was looking for. Sometimes it's just,
Mhm.
but it's always good. It's always good
Amazing the
content.
longevity that they've seen, huh?
Amazing that they were able to pivot out of CSS when literally that's the name of the the
Right?
publication or platform. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool. And I do still use it for CSS tricks all the time.
same here.
Yeah, I just did
Yep.
text gradients on my blog and I was like, wait, how do you do that? So I
Nice.
always Google CSS tricks and then what I'm looking for. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used
Yeah.
them recently to do media queries based on your system's dark mode preference.
Oh, nice.
That was another kind of cool CSS what do you
Yeah.
call it? Yeah, made me feel like a CSS Jedi slash
Yeah.
ninja slash
Yeah.
whatever.
Slash
Or whatever
rockstar
your
slash
favorite, yeah,
pick
whatever
your
your favorite
terminology.
superlative is.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and exactly. So good site. So even if you're not super familiar with, GraphQL, you don't have to just come here for this article. You can come here for a lot of other stuff. Or if you already know this stuff, just come here anyway because it's a good site. You might find something
Mhm.
useful. Yeah. So moving on, this one is pretty interesting, and so I thought I would share
Ooh,
it. Uh,
let's do GQL lists after this then. I
yeah.
think
Oh, I
GQL
forgot
lists
about
is next.
GQLS. I
That's
skipped
all
it.
right.
Oops.
We got it next.
Yeah, we got it next. Oh man, I totally missed it. But yeah, um, this is interesting to me. Redwood JS. So basically, I've heard people say or compare it to the Ruby on Rails of JavaScript. So it's very interesting. I have never used it before. I have zero experience with it. I've heard about it, so I thought it'd be fun to come and check it out. Do you love the Jamstack philosophy? Yes, but need a database backed web app. I mean, yeah,
Sometimes.
sometimes, yeah, but I feel like you can get there. But I see where they're going. I see where the buildup is because
Mhm.
currently, I'm privileged enough to have the knowledge to set up all this stuff by myself. I know how to build servers. I'm familiar with serverless functions. There's other services you can use to do this stuff. So I'm curious to see how they handle it.
In any case,
Uh,
they have our attention.
attention is grabbed. That is official. Yeah. Want great developer experience and easy scaling? Well, yes, that's of course I want that. Who doesn't, right? If you're here and you find yourself saying no to these questions, I would love to talk to you because I'm really curious what you do want. Redwood is here, so built on React, GraphQL, and Prisma. Okay, so like that's the built-in backend, I guess. Essentially, is
Interesting.
you're
Okay.
using Prisma. Okay. Redwood works with the components and development workflow you love, but with simple conventions and helpers. Okay, so do we from here want to start the tutorial and check it out to see how you set it up and what's going on? Or do we want to read the docs? Start the
Hmm.
tutorial, read the docs.
Good question. If we had a bump in chat right now, I would ask people to type one for tutorial and two for docs.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good. Yeah, who wants to go there? Let's see
chat,
if we get
can we
none. I'm gonna just do eeny meeny miny mo.
one for tutorial, two for docs? Where are we going?
Oh,
Oh,
oh, oh, they're coming in. They're flowing in.
all right. I
Tutorial,
think it's
tutorial,
pretty
tutorial.
unanimous right now. We're doing a tutorial, Kurt. Let's go.
All right, tutorial it is. Thank you for voting. All right. Okay, so this is small. Let me blow it up for y'all. Let's get this a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. Welcome to Redwood. If you haven't yet, check out the Redwood README on why we created. Should we do that or just go into the tutorial? I'm gonna go to the
No way,
tutorial.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
YOLO. You
yeah,
know?
tutorial. All right, cool. Prerequisites. I am familiar with these things. So I think we're good here. React, GraphQL, and Jamstack. Jamstack is my jam. I do really like Jamstack. So,
Mhm.
all right, you could
Hey,
work through this tutorial.
super new question here, Kurt. What does JAM stand for in Jamstack?
Oh yeah, that is JavaScript APIs and Markdown.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so that's the preface of the Jam stack. And so what that means is like those are the main building blocks, which is essentially static files. At the end of the day, it should be just like or markup. Did I say markdown? I meant to say markup, like HTML
Mm. Oh,
markup.
markup. Yeah, yeah, right. Got
Yeah,
you.
not
Yeah, no.
markdown. Markdown is
That would be
different. My
pretty
bad.
opinionated. Yeah.
Yes, very, very. But it's about yeah. Yeah, so it's JavaScript APIs and like the HTML markup language. So
Gotcha.
essentially static assets, all back-end functionality is handled through APIs, and you accomplish that by adding JavaScript to your static assets or
Markup.
pages. Yep, to your markup. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Moving on.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so you could work through this tutorial. Thanks for the warning. We're gonna move. We have Node. I mean, we're probably not gonna actually do it, so I'm just curious to see what it is.
Yeah, let's rip through this and see what their whole
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
concept's about.
Oh yeah. So cool. Yarn is a requirement. Okay. All right. But I guess that's fine, right? If it's like the Ruby on Rails of this, it's like, hey, here's a couple things you have to use, but this is what you get from it, right? Is that
Right.
closed up development experience?
Living up to its name. I would venture to guess that Yarn is a requirement because of workspaces. That's a
Probably.
really the big feature that separates Yarn from
Yes.
NPM is the ability to like basically symlink workspaces as or like separate directories in a greater project as dependencies of other directories, if that makes sense. And
Oh, it
they
does
call that
make sense.
workspaces.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I would imagine that that's what we'll see, and that they're using like that to break up the code.
Hmm.
So, oh, that's cool. So once you run Yarn Redwood Dev, right? Once you're in there, um, the browser should automatically open up. You'll see the Redwood welcome page. You already have routing configured. Interesting.
They've
So
got
adding a route,
yeah, they it looks like they've got sort of React router style
that is
um,
definitely what it looks like.
routing
Yeah.
syntax.
8, 9, 10 is the port. Oh, that's clever. 8, 9, 10.
Mm.
All right. First commit. Boom. We did our first commit, everyone. Congratulations.
Okay, let's see where we go now.
Our file structure. Because I guess if it's like Rails, a lot of this is probably based on the hierarchy in the file structure. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's take a look at files and directories. So we've under API, which is I guess is we're talking Jamstack, right? So this is how we're going to talk to the back end. We have a Prisma schema. We have seeds. Cool. It's important to seed your database when you're testing or developing. And then we have the functions, GraphQL services. I don't know what any of this is doing, but we'll probably learn. And then this looks pretty standard, right? We got a public directory. That's probably where things go that are just like your favicon, or maybe that's where assets get built. I don't know. And
Maybe,
then we've,
yeah, that might be the end result that you could ignore.
yeah, we'll have to see. And then, yeah, we have a source directory full of React. Oh, well, no. Well, yeah, full of React. It's built on React. I was going to say, oh, let's not make assumptions, but like it's literally React, the whole thing. Yeah.
Also
Got,
interesting to note that they have a static index.html file in there. I've been
yeah.
noticing a lot of like React or like front end frameworks have been going the direction of like generating an index.html rather than having like an actual HTML file floating in your source directory. Just cool
I
to know.
want, it is cool to know. And I wonder if it's because, yeah, I wonder if they still do generation on it, but they have it there in case you want to
Mm,
like do specific things to it. We'll see.
yeah,
I guess we'll probably see, right?
yeah.
Oh, here we
Let's see
go.
how quick we can rip through this and get an idea.
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, top level two directories, API and web. Redwood separates the backend API from the front end. Cool, makes sense. In
Ah, check it
Redwood,
out. Yeah, Yarn refers to these as workspaces.
boom, and in Redwood we call them sides. Okay.
All
When
right.
you add packages going forward, you'll need to specify which workspace they should go in. Okay. Don't run these. If you're following along, don't run these. Just look at it and enjoy. Yarn workspace web add marked. Okay. API add better FS. Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's
Makes
using
sense.
just using the regular Yarn workspace dependency installation syntax there.
Which is cool. I like it that they're just not like adding something else on top of it. You know, just makes it
Hmm.
easy. It just has the right config to know where to do things. That's cool. All right. API directory. Yes. Prisma, the plumbing for the database, contains the database schema, tables and columns. Seeds is used to populate. Yep. Figured that out. There will be a SQLite database file named dev.db and a directory called migrations created for us. So they really are. So this is like very interesting to me. So these are problems that a lot of times you don't really think about in the Jamstack, which is like, okay, I had a data structure. I need a new data structure. How do I migrate? What do I do? And this is like the Wild West, unless you are already familiar with this, unless you've done either some like DB admin stuff or you've worked at the, API and services level as a front end developer. If you're not familiar with this stuff, I wonder what happens when you reach this place. Like, does this make sense to everybody who's here watching right now? Because like it's like seeds and migrations are terms that are pretty specific to like database management. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I can speaking for myself. I've
yeah.
done a fair bit of back end development, and seeds and migrations are not like a familiar concept to me. And
Ah,
so I
okay.
that like that's also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But again, like you said before, being that this is positioning itself as the Rails of JavaScript, like this seems pretty in line. I remember when I was learning Rails, boy, like 10 years ago, um, there was a fair amount of confusion experience there. I was also a total noob, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's an opportunity to learn new concepts. I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely is. I like that framing. Yeah, it is an opportunity to learn new concepts. And they're good concepts to know and be familiar with, to be honest. Yeah, okay, cool. So source contains all other backend code. Oh, but the three directories functions, any Lambda functions. Very cool. So they also support Lambdas. That's interesting. Very curious to see how that works. Needs in addition to the GraphQL.js file auto-generated. Okay, this file is required to use the GraphQL API. GraphQL contains your GraphQL schema. Okay. And services contains business logic related to your data. When you're querying or mutating data for GraphQL, that code ends up here, but in a format that's reusable in other places in your application. Interesting. Cool. I like it.
Hey,
Uh,
hi folks. Somebody probably asked us, but do we know when Apollo Client version 3 is coming out? Thanks for the question. Unfortunately, we don't have a specific date for you right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the going message is soon. Um, and we've been meaning to get it out, but there's just a number of things that um, have pushed it back, and we promised that it'll be worth the wait when it
yeah.
does. And as soon as we have a more concrete date, you'll hear about it from the Apollo Twitter account. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it on stream. Like it'll be obvious. But for now, just
Uh,
stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter and Twitch, and that's really the best you can do to get updates right now.
Absolutely. Also, there is a bit of info in the repo if you feel like messing around in there. And as far as the milestones that were in place for 3.0, over 80% of them have been completed, including the most heavy lifting ones. So that is a good way to kind of gauge like how soon it'll be done. And yeah, anytime. Thank you for the question. And that's exactly what we're here for. So we are so glad that you asked. Cool. Yeah. All right. So continuing on into the web directory, I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit. I feel like most of this stuff will be familiar to us, or most people if you're familiar with React. So I'm not going to hang out for too long, but yeah, we got components, layouts contain wrap content and can be shared across pages. So this is a pretty standard MVC pattern. Not much different than what you've seen. You have the idea of a page, then you have different layouts that will organize things for you on that page, and then components that you use within those layouts. This feels very almost like, well, like Rails or like Magento or even WordPress. Like if you've used WordPress and are familiar with like the defaults as far as actually applying different layouts to pages and stuff like that, and not just rebuilding like the front end with Gatsby.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, so that makes sense. And then it seems, I wonder if these get mapped to a page. Yeah, so cool. So anything that goes in pages will be made here, but then you can also add client side routes through the router, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's probably the last item in the list. Routes.js is
Yeah.
likely talking about
Oh,
that.
so it maps a URL to a page. So you do still, I guess, kind of define it there, and then it will build from there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then these are just the pages that are included, but you can pull these pages into your router as far as what to render. Okay.
Mhm. What do you say, Kurt?
Public.
We breeze through. There's two sections next called our first page and then a second page with a link.
Yeah.
What do you say we breeze through those and then move on to the next
Called.
topic?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I just wanted to see about public real quick because I was curious if
Oh
that's what they
yeah,
will. And yeah, will be copied over unmodified to the final apps root directory.
got you. So this is kind of like the static directory if you're familiar with
Yeah.
Gatsby.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Okay,
not sure
cool.
what the
Yeah,
next
moving on.
JS version of that is, but yeah.
I don't know either, actually. I do not know. Okay, our first page. Yeah, I don't want to hear too long, but okay, so they're using generators, so you can generate a page, which will then create. It creates the page, creates a test file, and can add a route to the routes file for you. Interesting. That's very Railsy.
I like the snarky question there. You do
Which
write
one?
tests for your the after the second
Oh
point
yeah, yeah,
with a
yeah.
single
Don't
passing
you?
test. You do write tests for your components, don't you? Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, of
everybody
course
does.
I
What?
do. Yeah. Uh, in fact, this
All
page
right.
is already live. Cool. And then routing. Open up web routes, take a look at the route that was created, right? So then we can change the
Okay.
route. Here's the path. I don't know what the
Got it.
difference between path and name is though, but who cares?
Hmm. All right. Cool. So
Yeah.
the generate CLI command does two things. It creates the page for you in your pages directory, and it also adds a entry in the routes
Yeah,
file. It
as
seems
well
like,
as don't forget your test file. It also creates that.
and your test file, of course.
A second page and link. Okay, so now we're generating the about page. Nothing different here. Makes sense. And link and routes. Oh, this is interesting.
Hmm.
That's
Cool.
weird, right? Yeah. I would expect it to be to and then the URL slash about.
Yeah, I guess this is probably where that name prop comes into play, where what
Oh,
this allows you to do is you can change the path that your pages live at without having to update that path throughout your app, because you'd
which makes
always
sense.
call routes dot route
Home. Yeah.
and then if you decide to change about to about hyphen us, the
Right.
path, then you're still
Or
it still resolves to the correct
yeah.
thing in here.
Or our company, our team. Like you could change it to any of that,
Hmm.
and then you would not have to change it anywhere in the code. Got it. Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Cool. I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's cool, man. And then I think, yeah, so return home, go to about page, and that's it.
Nice.
I think that's it. I think that was a quick intro to Redwood
Yeah, we
JS.
got we got about halfway through the tutorial. I think that gives us a good
Yeah.
picture for what they're all about. But
Yeah.
as usual, if
I'm
you're
gonna
interested in learning more about this, I'm gonna paste a link in chat for Redwood JS. Definitely check
Oh,
them
did
out.
I not paste that? Man, I
Oh,
am
you might
I
you
am
might have you
really
might have pasted it before we even got into it, but In any
Yeah, yeah.
case, yeah. If
Either
and
way,
also
here
chat
it is.
if anybody's used it and has any thoughts or comments,
We would love to
we'd love
hear
to
it.
hear about
Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. So the next one we're going to here, I'm going to actually drop it in chat first, is to check out this new library, this hot newness, that new called what was it? GQL lists.
it.
Yeah, announcing GQL lists, a GraphQL client without queries. So,
Whoa.
okay, color me interested. I'm just very. This sounds wild to me. It sounds really cool, right? And so let me see if I can. Let's just go look at the demo first, and then let's blow this up real big. There we go. So access GraphQL data. Oh, I see. So you just literally start typing it out. Query.me.name, query.userslimit10.map. So you just anywhere I guess in your app define what you need, and then it will automatically generate and fetch the query for you.
Magic.
That's a lot of magic. All right, so which is interesting. It's very cool, but I gotta know, like, how do you do this? Check out the live Code Sandbox demo, and we will, and then read tutorial blog posts over at Sure. So won't do that. We'll just dive in real quick.
Yeah.
Effortlessly create GraphQL apps within minutes. Progressively load with easy to use cache and React suspense. Okay. Rich IDE experience. Ooh, support for TypeScript. All right, that I like seeing. So easily see your API documentation, jump to type definitions, etc.
Wow. Very cool.
But that is not a. That's the GraphQL type.
Mm, I think it's a TypeScript type.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in types.ts. But
Okay.
they're basically saying like that your response, like you can see it in the
Oh, it's generating
in
it
the
and
app
adding it.
JS, it's saying that this is a movie is of type movie, and
Yeah,
then the those types get added when
yeah.
you change your
That's cool.
properties or you add properties, I guess.
So it's
Uh,
adding the types on the fly as well, which it can do, right? That's the
yeah,
power of statically typed languages.
I wonder where it's getting those types from because is it like fetching them from GraphQL API via introspection or
Yeah,
something?
I would imagine it's got to be introspection and conversion, right? Like that's
Hmm.
it's got to be.
It's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I'm
The
definitely gonna
the
come back.
yeah, and even just the way that they're extracting or kind of like assembling the queries based on um like properties that you throw around your React app.
Yeah, you just
It's
be
quite
throwing them
interesting.
around.
Yeah, like
Oh my
they must
God,
do
something went
some
wrong.
must do some kind of like AST parsing
Oh,
because
well,
they oh, that's too bad.
yeah,
Well,
it's cool though.
good
Um,
question, Pancakes. And also, what's up, man? Glad to see you in chat. And the question is, what happens on error? And
oh,
that's
do
also a
we
good
want
question. I mean, it's funny you mention error because their code sandbox is failing with the status code 403. So maybe
that?
that's
Oh,
what
that's
happened.
what I thought you were talking about. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what happens on error. Yeah, that's a good question.
Like
What happens on error?
if you try to fetch a field that doesn't exist, for
Well,
example, I'd be
I
curious
would
to know.
imagine at that point that comes down to, I would imagine, just making it up, error boundaries. And like if those are defined within your app, it would probably catch at the next highest level error boundary. But, we could go look at the tutorial. I don't think I'm going to dive too deep into this, but I'm going to copy the
Mhm.
link to it directly so that people don't have to go get it and paste it into the chat if you want to go check it out. I mean, I think it's pretty wild and I want to figure out more. And then later I'm going to go dig in here because I'm very curious. Oh, that's the demo, but I want to see if I can dig into the package itself and see how it's
Yeah,
doing the TypeScript and generation. It's got to be introspection, right? Which opens up a lot of questions about
maybe.
access. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Right now, it's all
Um,
speculation.
yeah, it's interesting.
Hey,
I would love to I'd love to try it out. Um, typically,
yeah,
I like a little bit of magic sometimes,
a
but
little bit.
this feels very magical. Like there's this sort of separation of maybe like a perceived separation of control from the developer. Like I don't it's not I'm not explicitly like saying fetch this data the same way that I would using like conventional
Yes.
tools, but maybe that this also could just be kind of like a um, I'm used to doing it one way and there's a new way proposed and it feels awkward because I haven't tried it yet. So I'm going to
Yeah.
reserve any judgment until I give it a whirl because it
Yep.
looks really fun.
Yeah, and I think in the Hashura pipeline, it's probably it might make a bit more sense. Like I imagine that they they know how to handle the authorization and all that the and authentication stuff that's coming out of Hashura, and if this just connects with it, right, like pretty seamlessly, I could see that being enticing to some people. Like you don't really have to know much of anything or do much of anything to do it. But yeah, I personally like a little bit less magic. And I'm a big fan of a very verbose term, which is like progressive disclosure of complexity. And like
Mm.
Gatsby is a great example of that. Like if you just do Gatsby very minimal, bare bones, you just need like an index page. You don't have to know anything else about Gatsby, and you get a website. And then you can take Gatsby and basically run it on steroids and create all your own pages and do all this dynamic stuff. And like, you can get like way out into the weeds of it. So but it's progressively disclosed like how to do those things. You don't have to know any of it, but it's also easy to discover once you do need to know how to do it. Um, I like tools like that, but I don't know if this fits under that without more, definition or like
I like that
research.
I like that term though. Could you say it again? Progressive
Progressive disclosure of complexity.
disclosure of complexity. Nice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
PDC.
Yeah. That's it, man. Yeah. Yeah. PDOC. And so essentially that, yeah, it is a very powerful concept. It's something that I think Gatsby does really well. And yeah, actually, Jason Langsdorff has talked about this and written about it. And there's other people who he has borrowed from who have like written and talked about this idea. There's a lot of good information if you just Google it. It's pretty cool. I'm big into it. All
Awesome.
right. Yeah, yeah. So I think we're going to move on from there, but just know that now, if you don't want to write queries, you don't have to. It also brings up questions with like mutations and stuff, but I'm not even, or subscriptions, but like whatever. Neither here nor there. So what we're going to do now is take a look at, so this is just something I thought was interesting. Headless CMSs are all the rage these days. And I just stumbled across this article I thought was cool, but basically how to set up Storyblocks GraphQL endpoint with Vue and Apollo. So if you're considering building an app or a blog or whatever, and you wanted to use Vue and you wanted to use Apollo, this maybe you can use Storyblock. I don't know. I have no idea if it's good or if it's a bad CMS. This is not an endorsement. I would just like to add. It's just something cool that I found that looked pretty interesting. But yeah, it seems like a very easy setup. And this is really small. Is it every new page? Yeah, that's what it is. I'm having to like increase the size each page. Sebastian Crossa, awesome. Hey, thank you for the follow. We gotta one thing
Thanks,
we
man.
gotta do is update our alerts. That's next on the list for me.
Hmm.
Hey, awesome. Pancakes, thanks for follow. Nice. So initialize the GraphQL client. Yeah, so this is Apollo client. Oh, cool. And you can like target the draft version or publish version, I guess. So that's neat if you want to do like previews in dev mode. So I guess you could set
Ooh.
this as like a environment variable. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Bum, 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 bum. Make your first query. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, right. This is Vue. I'm such a weirdo. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wait, what is this syntax? And then like totally just realized this is Vue. That's what this syntax is.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, cool. This looks awesome. Yeah, and so boom, so you can be up and running with Vue and a headless CMS pretty quick. That's all. I just thought that was cool.
Have you
Just little things that I thought.
you said that you've never used Storyblock before, right?
Yeah, I've never used Storyblock.
Have you used any of the these like new wave
Headless
headless
CMSs?
CMSs? Yeah.
I have. Yeah, I have. I personally use Contentful. So when I'm going to do
Okay.
something, yeah, I use Contentful.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
uh,
one that I've heard a whole lot of.
yeah, I like it. They have a decent
Look at
free
they
tier
have
for.
the same like design as Storyblock. It's like the color on top,
Oh my goodness.
little wave element with multiple layers,
Look at
and
that.
then the
Look at
white
that.
article.
That's
Yeah,
so very funny.
great
Good
artists
catch.
steal. Right?
That's it, right? Good artists borrow and great artists steal or something like that. Is that how that
Something like
goes?
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, okay. New standard in content management. And look, people use it. Actual companies.
I guess so.
Five, six actual companies. So
Hmm.
it's legit. No, a lot of people use it. That's just the ones
Yeah,
they wanted to like show off. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But yeah, this is what I use. I like it. It does the
nice.
job well. Yeah, I'm actually building a Gatsby website right now for my tattoo artist, and I'm using Contentful for
Right
the back
on.
end. Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh yeah. Oh, but I never shared the post of the article, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I did.
It's in
Cool.
there.
All right. Nice for once. All right. So next, this was cool. It's just a shopping cart API. So you could do like shopping carts and checkout, like connect to your actual inventory and stuff, but it's GraphQL shopping cart API. So if you're building a
Ooh,
Jamstack app, you want to like sell little something, you've already got some inventory set up somewhere, but you want to like connect it to a GraphQL API and it's not supported by your whoever, here you go. I just love seeing stuff like this, and what I love seeing more is the next one we're going to talk about, and I'll get to why in a second. But I just love seeing that people are like, oh yeah, like this is cool as a REST API because there's a million of these like that are REST
mhm,
APIs. This is the first one I've seen that was like GraphQL first, and I just love seeing more and more of these GraphQL first, uh, platforms popping up, services as a service.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that's interesting. So that's why I shared it. So if you
Nice.
need, yeah, yeah, and they look pretty new, from what I could tell. So I'm not like even sure how, mature of a product it is. It's free. I don't understand how you could require no API token for carts or checkout. That's a little weird. Oh, maybe just to try it out. To try it out, you don't need that because I can't possibly fathom how you wouldn't need some sort of like token or thing for checkout. Um, but yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. Now this next one was a real shocker to me when I saw it. I've done in a previous life. I feel, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cart would be a great application for federation. Exactly. That's something that you might want to keep off separate, and still have integrated into your graph, but you kind of want that entire all the business logic and everything in isolated service. 100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the next one is Magento. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Magento. So Magento is the e-commerce platform people go to when they get too big for like Shopify or like all this stuff. So one of my very first jobs was developing these Magento e-commerce sites and like connecting them to WordPress blogs. And then like also I did a lot of Drupal stuff. But Magento is like, for me, in my opinion, IMO, it is not a very friendly platform to use. And it's generally pretty slow to like release a lot of updates. So it blew my mind when I saw built-in support. Hey, oh hey, what's up, Peggy? Thank you for joining us.
How's it going?
Yeah. Oh, no
It
worries.
happens.
Yeah. That's how it goes, right? That's that life, yeah. That's that job life. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. It blew my mind when I saw that Magento actually, yeah, manager life exactly. When Magento had built-in support for GraphQL, like they're like, oh, okay, like this is enough of a thing. So when you see a framework like Magento, so I just want to reiterate the free version is like kind of free, but you don't get a lot. But this framework costs, I think it's $50,000 a year for the license or something like that, or $20,000 a year for the license. It's insane.
Dang.
It's insane. Oh yeah. Hey, thanks for the follow. Yes, holy is correct. It's so expensive, and it's just funny. I couldn't believe when I saw GraphQL, but that's all.
I
I
would
just
hope
wanted
that
to.
you could at least
Adobe.
send email newsletters from there if it costs $20,000 a year.
Yeah, you could do anything from here. I will say with
I'm
the
just kidding.
add-ons that they have, you can set up a store, connect shipping, connect tracking, connect inventory management and fulfillment. I have $3. They have a free tier. They do have a free version. So uh, that's so funny. But yeah, I did not know that they got, I guess, bought by Adobe. It's an Adobe company now.
Okay, everything
Things
is.
change. Yeah, everything's
That's
an
crazy.
Adobe company.
The other service that I was kind of joking about was Marketo, which is also happens to be an Adobe product that costs a ridiculous amount of money every year.
Oh yeah, Marketo. Yeah. The
Yeah.
email thing, right? Yeah.
Um,
Man, Adobe is
so yeah,
smart.
Adobe's the master at buying these products and selling them for a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so
Magento's
kudos
a
to
blast
you.
from the past, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. Magento is like, man, it's actually gave me like a PTSD when I first saw it because man, that was like one of my worst jobs. It was a real bad place to work. It was like a developer mill. That's what I like to call them. They would hire people, work them to death, and they'd quit like 6 months to a year later, and that's it. It's just like a revolving door.
Ouch.
That's so funny. One of the fast food chains is using Magento. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
sounds
people.
about
You'd be
right.
surprised. Yeah, Bombas socks. I set up like their first like store with Magento a long time ago. Harry's the razors website used to be on Magento. They actually moved off to their own custom platform. But anyway, yeah, neither here nor there. The next thing, and this is our final item on the list for this week, and I'm going to share a link in the chat. Is this actually 2020 is marks the you said awesome. Thank you for the follow. Yes, you said. Hope I got that right. So he's a guess. Yeah, is a YouTube video, and I figured we could watch it here. It just has some people from the GraphQL community talking about GraphQL, how they found it, what they want from it in the future, what they see for it. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's like a quick little 10-minute video, and I figured we could just watch it here. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So again, let me know if the volume is crazy, and I'll try and fix it if it gets bad.
Okay.
So what have you learned in the last 5 years of GraphQL that you'd use in the next 5 years?
Sounds okay for me.
Everything.
Sounds okay for me. Let me know in the
Frame
chat
rate's
if you
pretty
can hear
choppy
it.
on Twitch, but
In
Yeah.
the last 5
I think we
years,
got the idea.
learned that GraphQL is actually more than just a tool. It changes how we work and communicate.
Describing your data in contracts and all the crazy tools you can get once you do that.
Volume is
I
good.
learned
Cool.
how important this community is for a technical project. That it's really important to work on documentation and help other people contribute.
Basically, it's about talking to people about GraphQL. So, like, different parts of GraphQL appeal to different people. It's kind of like how to talk to people about GraphQL and how to, like, get them excited about it.
Well, I think the most interesting work in GraphQL is happening at the fringes. There are plenty more problems to solve in product engineering, and I think GraphQL will push to evolve with them.
I have learned how to incrementally adopt GraphQL in an enterprise stack, and I would be using it in the years to come.
I've learned that the idea of giving application developers and API consumers more power to request for the data they want and reduce their dependency and communication overhead with the API team, I think that idea is extremely powerful.
Describe GraphQL in 5 words.
In 5 words, I would say intuitive.
Give control to the consumer.
Unifying.
Automate your data work. 3
Nice.
Ad hoc endpoints are dope, y'all.
In control.
Agree.
Get exactly what you want.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Get what you need.
Iterative.
Boolean, int, float, string, ID.
RPC with a little bit of magic.
And fast to market. I think that's 5 words.
Graphy?
And very graphy. Yes.
Graphy.
What feature of GraphQL would you really miss if it were to go away?
Control spacebar.
Graphical.
My favorite thing is showing people graphical for the first time, just like blowing their mind.
I would
It does
miss
blow
the
minds.
inspection tools like GraphQL a lot.
Just like you can just write whatever you want, it comes back exactly what you wanted, and it's amazing.
GraphQL syntax, it's a little bit of magic in this technology. It's really cool.
I think that would be the ability to do joins across diverse data models.
If for some reason GraphQL started giving you more data than you asked for, I'd be pretty unhappy.
The fact that it's a protocol and an idea and not a technology or an implementation.
It's not a technical feature, but I would really miss the community of engineers who continue to contribute to help make GraphQL what it is. GraphQL wouldn't exist without them.
Which
That's you,
animal
Kurt.
or plant would be the GraphQL mascot? Interesting.
A spider, because spiders are always making graphs.
It would be Spider because it's a web developer.
I like
think
Spider.
Spider is a pretty good one because it has a web, and this web goes to different places.
Like they spin webs, it's interconnected like a graph. It would be like super cool on a shirt.
Spiders sound pretty cool.
Surprised nobody said giraffe.
Really cute, but like
Oh, giraffe would be good.
pretty cool.
So I'm surrounded by a lot of plants, and I think it should be a plant.
A banyan tree, kind of like
Giraffe
taking all
QL.
the stuff from the earth and then spreading it out to whoever needs it.
If you see vines on the buildings, they often start like small, and they grow, and they spread for entire building.
I think a chameleon. They have an uncanny ability
What
to
up,
adapt
Khalil?
to
How's it going,
Hey,
dude?
Khalil.
environments and scenarios.
I would be badgers because they dig data.
Oh, badger.
Humans are also nice animals. What would you want to change about GraphQL?
I would like to introduce the equivalent of SQL variables in GraphQL because they are so incredibly powerful.
An
That's
approach
interesting.
to GraphQL that works well with microservices and it being less coupled to a monolithic design. I would also like for GraphQL to take a more opinionated stance on authorization, especially with like the introspection schema.
I would make it easy for beginners to get started with GraphQL.
I would really want to change how different services operate. I think that GraphQL servers across the board should get all the latest and greatest features, not just the GraphQL servers in Ruby or Java or JavaScript.
One, I would have to write an RFC if I really wanted to change something. So I would write a spec. Am I right? Being able to not have to alias arms of a union that are different, having an arm of a union be able to be an interface, that would be super useful, especially for the error handling stuff.
I would want to see more implementations of real-time stuff.
I think it's like the biggest challenge for GraphQL for the next 5 or 10 years is to learn how to innovate and not just only add small incremental improvements.
I think looking back, that if GraphQL had the ability to handle errors in the query, that might have changed how we thought about nullability. But there's actually a lot of different ways that I'd like to see GraphQL evolve, and luckily we have a working group that meets every month that is working on these things right now.
So, how did you and GraphQL meet?
Well, GraphQL's cousin owed me money, so I went over to GraphQL's cousin's house to collect the money, but GraphQL's cousin wasn't there, but GraphQL was
I love
there.
these guys.
And I was like,
They're the best.
You're easy to talk to.
I was working on rebuilding Facebook's iOS app in 2012, and I saw Nick Schrock's prototype of a new API concept that he called Supergraph.
Supergraph.
I thought the idea was so
Supergraph.
amazing that I just kind of invited myself to start contribute. We later named that GraphQL.
I met GraphQL at PayPal when my current team member introduced me to it.
Very reluctantly. We had our own version of GraphQL, which was a JSON kind of a DSL, and we'd carefully kind of grown up with it and built it. And then someone said, you know what, this sounds like GraphQL. Why don't you just use GraphQL? And then we kind of started looking at GraphQL in more detail, and light bulb went on.
Mike Solomon at MSol on Twitter, I think he told me about GraphQL. That's how I first found out about it, which was like right when it came out. And he was like, oh, look, this is so cool. And I was like, yeah, like whatever. I didn't really like look at it that much. And then he built a prototype and showed me. I was like, oh, that's like actually super cool.
I was working at Meteor, and we were talking about how
Meteor
should look like and how the data layers should look like, and then we figure out GraphQL is amazing, and then out of that came Apollo.
I was on this conference in the RESTfest, and I heard the talk about GraphQL. It was interesting, but the most important thing for me was that I heard that GitHub is using it, so it motivated me to actually look into this technology and spend time with it.
We met through a mutual acquaintance, Relay, but once we met, we really hit it off.
How does everybody else meet? Hacker News.
Hacker News.
What stack did you migrate GraphQL from?
Too many.
I'm just going to pause right here for one sec because, Trevor, I want to ask you, how did you learn about GraphQL? Like, how did you get into it?
I mean, I don't remember when I first heard the term GraphQL. I'd heard it just probably through web development Twitter, kicking around, but I never took the chance to see what it was about or even understand what it is, or try it. And then it was probably like August, I want to say August or September 2018, I was reached out to by Nicole Seo from Apollo. She was engineering manager at Apollo at the time, and was wondering if I wanted to join her team. And I was like, well, I don't know what Apollo is, but I checked out a few links, and I did a tutorial, and immediately it clicked. I was like, oh wow, this is really nice. And so that the weekend after, we probably talked on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. That weekend I rewrote one of my side projects using Apollo and GraphQL. And the next week I got back to her and I was like, okay, I'm in.
Wow.
That was like my introduction to GraphQL was like also my introduction to Apollo.
Wow. So Khalil just jumped in the chat and he heard about GraphQL because it was written on the hallway in his college. And someone said, forget Java and ASP.NET and learn Node.js and GraphQL.
That's amazing.
That
is
amazing.
That's the best kind of vandalism I can think of.
Yeah, it's like helpful vandalism. I'm not even sure how to categorize that. That's really funny.
Chat, please jump in.
Yeah.
If anybody else has any other cool origin stories with GraphQL. I really like Khalil's. I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah, mine is not quite as fancy, but I was working at Major League Soccer, actually with Peggy, and Peggy and I, we implemented GraphQL at Major League Soccer. So we were building a new like kind of web app, and it suited our needs much better than what was currently around.
Cool.
Yeah.
You say you use GraphQL on all your APIs. You're from Peru, and thanks to Apollo.
Awesome.
It is truly our pleasure. I'm happy to hear that.
That's awesome.
Could you share how you first came in contact with GraphQL?
Yeah, like how did you learn about it? I'd be curious. So while we wait for anyone else to throw in the chat, I'm going to keep going. And I think what they're talking about here, right? We might as well keep hitting this video up. We got like 3 minutes left.
Sure.
I'm going to
to think about.
I came from a Node REST API background.
Meteor, obviously.
At like Medium, it was we're using REST and like Node.js and JavaScript, and we went to React and GraphQL.
A lot of .NET apps.
Thousands of REST APIs.
Java
Hey,
apps.
Capito, thank you for the follow.
GraphQL, I was heavily involved with OpenAPI. Back then it was called Swagger.
Angular apps.
A mix of things, including REST APIs. However, a lot of our apps actually used an API called FQL, which was a variant of the SQL language on top of web APIs.
React apps.
We had a custom JSON DSL on our server, and we moved to GraphQL from that. The JSON DSL was very similar to GraphQL, but imagine like the GraphQL language being embedded in a JSON.
Lampstack.
Mean.
Mern.
Mon.
Flash.
Cold Fusion. .NET.
I can't get enough of these guys.
I love them.
Too many.
Moon Highway for the win.
Having to tell your parents you're not going to use REST anymore.
Visualizing the resolver process.
Switching from the mindset of doing everything optimally and in one batch to each resolver is independent.
I think the initial adoption can be a challenge. I also think GraphQL clients can sometimes be more complex than many would like them to be.
Two things, client-side state management is still a little bit hard. Second is that it's hard to build a really good GraphQL server, especially that kind of leverages the more modern serverless and cloud-native style trends.
I think the hardest part currently is adopting GraphQL without a heavy client-side library.
Sometimes things like data aggregation and counts, they have to be done outside the query language.
Understanding how to model your data, I think it can be hard when you're first starting out.
So I spend most of the time working on reference implementation. GraphQL become purely theoretical for me.
What is the biggest challenge you faced when adopting GraphQL?
See you, Peggy.
Bye, Peggy. Thanks for joining us.
Like what to do with all the extra time you have on your hands.
To be open to new concepts.
It was hard to dive into GraphQL with the spec first.
The biggest challenge I faced was caching on the client side.
Keeping a coherent API, both the names and the behavior, as GraphQL quickly spread across the whole surface of Facebook.
Companies' internal politics.
Yeah.
The hardest part, I think, is convincing people that it's a good idea.
The biggest challenges that I found in adopting GraphQL are actually non-technical. How you organize your schema, who owns what part of your schema, and ultimately, who owns the operations of the GraphQL server.
Graph
How would
Manager.
you convince someone today to migrate to GraphQL?
Graph Champion.
I would definitely tailor it to the person I was talking to. Basically, you can develop like so much faster, and I think like focusing on that and talking about that and how it's like so awesome for people to develop now, I think I would focus on that.
Graph Isa. I love it.
Start by just replacing existing data and existing code in your front end.
I will show them graphical and help them to write a couple of queries.
I'd probably show them graphical and go from there.
Honestly, just start using it. Front-end folks can actually use the magic of GraphQL without having to build a server. You can actually do it right in the browser.
I think I just show them graphical, the API Explorer.
Well, do you want to be able to build stuff without being blocked on your backend and API developer all the time? It's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. That's why you would want to move to GraphQL.
Graphical was
How
the
would you
biggest
convince
seller
someone today to migrate
for me.
to GraphQL?
I'd tell them it's just better here. Like, it's sunny all the time. You can wear flip-flops every day. GraphQL has good food.
So it was interesting to answer
Can
these
confirm.
10 questions.
Yeah.
And I hope I will see you at GraphQL Asia 2020 in Bangalore. Bye.
Love you. Sorry I couldn't be there. Yeah, miss you all a lot.
I guess it's for a conference, this video.
Great.
Cool.
Awesome. Just to jump back in chat for a second, Pancakes mentioned that he created his first real product using GraphQL with another developer. It was popular amongst the anti-boilerplate people around here. That's pretty good. That's kind of like in line with one of the things that a couple people mentioned, which is like getting buy-in from your peers was an important hurdle. Communicating the advantages of it. And then Surajan said, from Meteor, I discovered Apollo in GraphQL and now using Relay in my work.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you've had to look at all the different, or not all the different, but I guess the two main tools out there. I guess if you'd be willing to share and you're still around, I'd be curious to know why the switch from Apollo to Relay.
Yeah, also
I've heard a lot of folks going the other direction, Relay to Apollo, but yeah, not so much the other way.
I found that for me, when it comes to selling GraphQL to other people, it's like that's more of a people problem than a GraphQL problem. GraphQL has a lot of amazing features that are enticing to pretty much any team or like, I don't know, business section or domain, I guess you could say. And so I guess it's just about knowing the stakeholders who would be involved in such a move. And then figuring out what features of GraphQL are best for them. So like for product managers, I show them graphical. I'm like, hey, you can explore our data, very clearly. You can draw up this query. For QA, I showed them how we could include queries in our Jira tickets, and for the backend, like what we expected the data shape to be, and it could be considered complete once that query returned, once it returned the values, the structure that we expected. So it made it very easy and concise to figure out how to test. For front-end developers, just kind of walking them through the DSL, I found, has always been very beneficial. And for API developers, I tend to try to win them over with a lot of the features that GraphQL gives you out of the box, like limiting what's coming back in your response, automatically drawing relationships for you, and stuff like that. So, yeah.
One of the big things that I really liked about GraphQL on my first impressions was, and people mentioned in that video, is you get exactly what you ask for.
Yes.
That was something that I really, really liked. It was a breath of fresh air coming from a REST background, where I would make a request to a REST API and get 100 fields and use 2 of them.
Yeah.
I just loved the cleanliness. I loved the transparency. I would write a query, and I could look at a component and read the query, and that query reads like a shopping list or a set of data requirements, basically for that component. I can read the query and get an idea already about what that component is going to be about.
Yes.
And that's just like such a nice thing to have.
Yeah, I feel like at Major League Soccer, again, where I first discovered it and implemented it, that was one of our driving factors, was the API surface. The client had to make so many different requests to the APIs to formulate a proper query, because we had data coming from 3 different APIs that were very different. And even just one little card for a match, to see the score and get the team names and their logos. And when they would be playing, was 3 separate APIs. And so you always were having to join them together anyway, but it was from the client side. There was no API gateway, but even API gateway would have been obnoxious. But yeah, that was it for us. Awesome. And that is also it for my list. That is essentially what I've got for what's going on in GraphQL as of lately.
Cool. We just got a couple more chats coming in.
Nice.
Pancakes mentioned that the other thing that GraphQL has indirectly helped with is developing a common ground with other developers. Openness to adoption has to come first. That's a really good point. It's like a common language that the front end and back end developers speak.
I like it.
Can kind of serve as a bridge. That's pretty cool. And Sirajan mentioned that when I arrived, they were already using Relay. Oh, okay, I got you. So yeah, you entered a project where Relay was the tool of choice. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you think that Apollo has better documentation. I'll take that one.
And then we got HVP 17.
Go ahead.
Oh, so using Apollo for front end in Nexus from Prisma. Okay, out of work. But for personal projects, you use Apollo. The front end, exploring Hashura now. Yeah, loving it so far. That's cool. Yeah, let me know if you ever write any or make any content about that. I'd love to hear about it. And then exploring Apollo platform now. Cool. Awesome. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah. Cool. So I guess, yeah, unless anything else, anyone else wants to chime in real quick, I think that is all of the updates that I have for this week. And unless anybody else has any last minute cool things that they want to share, we'll probably wrap it up.
Nothing on my end.
Nothing on your end. All right. Then that's going to be it for us. We're going to wrap it up there. We've already taken up an hour and a half of your morning. We hope that it was as fun and informative as we intended it to be. And,
I know I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time. Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. And all of these videos, awesome, very fun. That's what we love to hear. All these videos are going to be on our YouTube very shortly. Look for them within the next 24 hours.
Cool. And also just reiterate, Kurt mentioned at the top of the episode, but we're doing a number of different types of shows on this channel. And we've got another one coming up later this week. Kurt, would you like to fill the viewers in on what they can expect on Thursday?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. Thursday is the first episode of Launchpad. That's going to be at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, California time. And yeah, we are going to be bootstrapping a brand new project. We're going to be building an app that I've built once, but this is going to be the V2, a better version. It's called Journey, and it is an app that helps you track job listings as far as like how far you've been through the process with them, contacts you've met through there. You'll be able to generate like CS, what is it? CV? Yeah, CV templates on the fly. Create a resume, all kind of cool stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I feel like, especially now, this time, there's no better time than to have an app that's going to make your job tracking life easier if you're being affected by this current pandemic. So hopefully this will help a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, me too. Cannot wait. I love building things. Cool. All right, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining, everyone. This is officially the end of our stream. We hope to see you Thursday, and we also hope to see you next week. Same Apollo time, same Apollo channel for another episode of Orbit. Later, everybody.
See you guys.